Oh joy, here we go again. So, I have another article here. The horrors of AI. This whole series is going to be the horrors of AI and technology. I'm really starting to sound like a conspiracy nut. This was posted on the 7th, which it seems like all the articles I brought to you were posted on like the 7th through the 10th. And they all hit at roughly the same time. It was very odd. Anyways, the title for this article is New York woman refuses to pay $440 fine to Hertz after AI scanner flags small scuff on wheel. Just wait until you find out what the scuff is. Then we'll really talk about it. A New York woman is refusing to pay dollar parent company Hertz $440 bill that was triggered by the rental car firm's AI scanner, which detected a wheel scuff she claims didn't exist. Okay, well, yeah, that's really where this is going. Nicole Pascal, I don't really care about her name, told the Post that she and her wife, were concluding a 4th of July vacation when they returned their rented Nissan Altima to the Dollar Hertz terminal at Atlanta's Hartsfield-Jackson International Airport. Good Lord, that was a mouthful. Sorry. Basically, this is at Atlanta's airport, the big one, the hub, where everybody and their mother flies through. Like, you could start on the West Coast, you'll still end up in Atlanta, even if you have to go back to the West Coast. I'm very intimately familiar with that airport. So it says here, so basically the story is she drops off the car, it goes through the AI scanner. Before we even reached our gate, I received a text and an email stating they had found damage on the vehicle. My wife and I travel a great deal, and I will never use their car company again, unless you have no choice. But we'll talk about that later. I do not believe at any point that I damaged their vehicle or did anything wrong. I will not succumb to $440 for a scratch, which, even if it exists, is not a feasible price, which that's pretty nuts if it's a $440 fine for a scratch. It appears to be a small scuff on the wheel that allegedly was not there prior to the rental. When reached by the Post, Hertz provided a close-up before and after photos of the front passenger side wheel, which have seen the scuff. Do they even show? Okay, they do. Here, let's go ahead and look at the photos real fast. You gotta be kidding me. That's all it is? $440 for that? Well, that's ridiculous. Anybody could have done that. Oh my God, really? Wow, $440. Like, again, $440 for that. That's ridiculous. Okay, let's go back to. Okay, so when Pacquiao and her wife picked up the Altima on June 28th, the wheel in question showed no visible sign of damage, scratches. When the couple returned the rental car on July 5th, the rim of the wheel appeared to be. The rental car giant defended the computerized inspection, saying that they provided precision, objectivity. Wow. Objectivity. There we go. That's the word. Objectivity. One more time for the children in the back. Objectivity. And transparency to what was previously a subjective process, which I will admit the system was a bit I don't want to say questionable, but it was more subjective. You know, you got a person walks around, they're like, that's a little ding, that's a little ding. And then you bring the car exactly as it was, and the person's like, that wasn't there before, that wasn't there before, even though it was literally the same freaking scratches. You know, and that's why they have like, I just rented a U-Haul for the move that I just did. And they actually had a defined length for scratch. It was like, if the scratch was like an inch long or something like that, then they would bill. But any smaller than that, then it was like considered wear and tear. You know. The AI system is designed to ensure customers won't be charged for the damage that didn't occur during their rental, and that 97% of nearly 1 million rentals scanned by the apparatus showed no billable damage. I honestly, look, okay. I'll tell a quick anecdote here. So I was at work once, and I shouldn't. Let me back up here. I had to travel to a different city for work, and I was in a rental that was provided by my company, right? I was driving to a customer site in my rental, and there was construction on this freeway that I had to travel through. And I'm not going to say the name of the city, but it's a major East Coast city. Okay. I'm stuck in traffic. And I'm going under this bridge that's under construction, and my car got hit not once, not twice, but 3 times by large concrete chunks that dented the hood. And I was furious over that. Now, granted, I didn't have to pay for it. The company paid for it, but I got an earful from the rental manager who handled all the rentals and stuff, because apparently the damage that I supposedly did, even though I documented it and all that stuff, came out to about, I want to say $700. And 9 times out of 10, they won't even do the work to fix that so-called damage. They just send you a bill and then pocket that money. A good example of this is landlords who own older homes. They will go through, and any damage that they can find, they'll deduct from the deposit. And if you go onto certain forums, they actively talk about this scam as a way to get money from their tenants. You know, that's why it's so important to go around and, take photos of all the light fixtures, everything, document, because they are bloodthirsty scammers out there. And I know it's hard to, when you're moving and all that stuff. That's why you got to do the walkthrough. You got to take the photos while you're doing the walkthrough, right? What I do is I actually got this app that the default's in the bottom right hand corner, but you can put it anywhere in the picture, that gives date, time, and if you want down to the second, you can do that. The location and the GPS location and other things. I got that app, and that's what I do is I take photos of everything, and it saved my rear countless times. When I was in college, I'll tell this other anecdote. I was staying in the dorms because first year students are required to stay in the dorms, right? This one really upsets me. Outside of the dorm rooms, each room had a whiteboard. One of those little dry erase whiteboards, and it's in a common space. This is a very important aspect to the story here. So the entire year, I don't use it. I don't ever use it, right? People would draw and stuff like that, but I never used it. The RAs would actually use it to, like, say, hey, we got a meeting tonight or whatever. So they would give announcements, right? At the end of the year, I got a bill. Keyword here, a bill. And it came out to $280 for the damage on the whiteboard. And I came unglued because I was paying for college out of my own pocket. I never received help from my dad. I came unglued over this. So I appealed. And I was denied the appeal. And the phrase that they used that ticked me off more than everything else is they told me this is how it works in the real world and this is why we're doing it. So I appealed again. I went through the whole appeals process was you write an essay and all that stuff. I actually got the rule manual, and it says the student will not be held accountable for common space violations. The whiteboard was in common space. So, I went through and I showed because when it comes to whiteboards over time, it's hard to just take an eraser and erase it out. It starts smudging after a while, right? So I went into the whole science behind that, and I go through this whole thing on the essay saying why it's not my fault, and then at the end of it I said it really doesn't matter anyways because it's in common space. And I got the money back. But it took 2 appeals in order for them to actually understand their own rules and abide by their own rules. That's how much of a vindictive person I can be if I absolutely have to. Is I'll actually go through their manual and I'll go through line by line and I'll, shove it up their rear. But that's kind of where this is going, is the computer's designed to protect the company and the consumer. But let's go back to that photo here. How much was this? $440 for that. Are they going to replace it? No. They're not going to buy a new rim. They're just going to report the damage and they'll probably get an insurance claim out of it or something. $440 for that. What that looks like is she hit a curb. What person has never hit a curb in their life? And honestly, I know what it boils down to. She didn't buy the insurance. Always buy the insurance. I hate to say it. I know it's a scam, but every single time I rent a car, I buy the insurance because I want to be able to take that car and flip it over and not pay a dime. But $440 for that. Wow. It says here, I personally don't think any damage was done to the vehicle. It's obvious it was damaged. It's scuffed. But if it was, I think it's a scam designed to scratch the tire and fabricate the whole charge. Pacquiao, I will say I don't really support this woman either because it sounds like she's just nitpicky about it. It says here, whatever her name is, provided a screenshot of the emails received in correspondence with Dollar and Hertz that showed the charge broke down to $250 for rim repair and a $190 processing fee. So the processing fee right there can go away. That's their admin charge. That's the scam. $250 for rim repair. The company is harassing her as well. They're contacting her phone, her wife's phone, which was listed as a backup contact on the account. I'm not surprised there. So the only reason why she got involved, she's trying to shame Hertz into dropping the charge, which they probably will. That's fine. It's well within her right. But Hertz is just notorious for this kind of stuff. We're talking about the same company that will, or was it Enterprise that did that? No, I think Hertz did, where they reported someone stealing their car when they rented it. She asked Hertz to provide a video of the vehicle to show the scratches versus a picture, and they declined. I'm not surprised there because it's picture based and not video based. She even offered Hertz the contact information for her attorney in case the company wanted to discuss the matter directly. They see, this is now like initially I was on her side, but I'm starting to think that she's my opinion slightly changed the further I'm reading on this article. I'm starting to think that this woman's a Karen. Again, $440 for that right up here. I'm not like I do support her on that. And this is the before photo. It's obvious that it did get damaged during her usage. But again, it's on a tire, which I would argue that the tire is not fair game. And this is the problem with rentals in general, where like the smallest scratch can lead to hundreds of dollars. But I will tell everybody, get the insurance so that way you can avoid this stuff. I know it like the insurance, but the insurance probably would have been like what, $100 versus $440. You do the math on that. I know like some people think it's a scam, but I'd rather pay $100 than $440 for this. And that's just for a tire rim, which it looks like she just rubbed up against the curb, and she more than likely did. She didn't want to admit to it, and that's fine. She doesn't have to. Here's an interesting bit here. It says here, recently renters across the country have criticized the system for misidentifying water reflections, shadows, or existing imperfections as new damages, leading to charges of hundreds of dollars. The company has rolled out the scanners at several major airports, such as Atlanta, Newark, Houston, Charlotte, Phoenix, and Tampa. Hertz plans to expand to more locations at the end of 2025. Critics argue that these AI assessments leave renters with virtually no way to dispute an automatically generated claim. And this, again, that's, again, the issue that I'm seeing is computers have no wiggle room, which in certain regards, that's great. You can't lie to the computer. In certain regards, that's atrocious because, back in the day, loans or banks had loan officers, and they would be ones to determine if you were viable to get a loan or not. Right now, the computer determines it, and it's done by arbitrary rules, that they're not clear on. A lot of it has to do with your credit score. Which I would argue that a credit score is in no way indicative of your ability to pay loans. I've heard many stories where people who are renting are paying more for a rental than if they just bought a house, but because their credit is in poor condition, they can't buy a house. So they're stuck paying the higher rental charge, And we just talked about in my South Korean video about the homeless Chinese people who are homeless because of bad social credit scores. you know? And that's kind of my whole point is these systems are going to dictate our behavior. And when we have systems that dictate our behavior, we lose our free will. Because I shouldn't say free will. We are punished for free will. We don't lose it. We are punished for it. There's a difference. Losing free will implies that we still don't have a choice, and we do have a choice. You can either do what you want to do anyways, but be forced into poverty and joblessness and homelessness, or you conform your behaviors to what the state, the corporation want, and you're rewarded, which that's, adjusting behavior instead of losing behavior. Anyways, the reason why this connects to men specifically is because, people are going to have to start shelling out more money for, again, that right there. I mean, like, there's no color to that photo, so I can't tell what that is. That does look like a scuff, but now that I'm being told that it thinks that water can be damaged and all that stuff, like, again, that looks like she scraped the curb. It's possible, right? But that could be dust. That could be a lot of things. And that's $440. I just, I don't know. I don't. Here's another one here. So she had another incident with Hertz at Phoenix. They charged her $70 because she didn't return the vehicle with a full gas tank. So she already had problems with Hertz, and she still used Hertz. Granted, Hertz is just the start. Hertz dollar is just the start. Enterprise will slowly come behind, and then the other companies will also slowly come behind too. So this is not going to go away, And the fact is it's probably already paid for itself in full. That's why they're doing more. I don't know. I really don't know. I think that there's a lot going on here. Pacquiao, here's another one. Pacquiao said she also researched the value price of the Ultima rim. She said she was able to spot new Ultima's rims on the internet for less than $280. This lady's stupid. It's like she's arguing that she could get cheaper rims and send it to him. Well, it's not the rims; it's the rims and the labor involved in replacing the rims. That's where that cost was, and the $190 was the administrative cost and sending her emails and doing all the research and all that stuff, because that costs money. Like, this woman's coming off as a Karen. So this article is a train wreck. I don't like either party in this article. I think they're both freaking awful and worthless. But I will agree that $440 is a little excessive for rims. Especially, as we said before, that right there. So, like I said, I don't support either side, but I definitely support her over Hertz in that. Let's talk if there was a dent. It just seems like she doesn't want to pay a bill, which I get it. $440 is nothing to sneeze at. I can think of a lot of things I could do with $440. But she should have bought the insurance. Like, had she bought the insurance, she would have not had this issue. And they don't have video. These machines, they don't take video, I guarantee it. Because of all the expense in that information, which would not really prove anything. Well, I mean, for her, it would prove something, but yeah, I don't know. I think both parties just suck in this. Anyways, I'm going to wrap it up here. It's already 25 minutes into this. So, hey, if you enjoyed what you saw here, and I wouldn't blame you if you didn't. But if you did enjoy it, hey, don't hesitate to like and subscribe and do those things that I particularly like. Even if you don't like what I do and you want to leave angry messages to me, I'll still read them and I'll still reply to them, because that's engagement. That's all I really care about right now, is the engagement, which rises me up in the algorithm. So thank you for all that, and I appreciate you being here. Have a good day.